Everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Working on Your Business Instead of In It, presented by Michael Richman, EOS implementer and former owner of Academy Awning. My name is Megan Furl, Education Events Coordinator here at ATA, and I will be moderating today's webinar. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. During today's webinar, you'll have the opportunity to submit questions or comments to Michael by typing them into the questions box of your control panel. You can send in these questions at any time during today's presentation, and we will address them at the end. Today, we have two handouts under the Handouts tab of your dashboard. First, you can find a PDF version of today's presentation slides. Please feel free to download those and follow along. There is also an EOS worksheet that Michael will be referencing and using. Today's webinar will be recorded and sent out in an email, and that'll be coming from GoToWebinar tomorrow. With this, I would now like to get started and pass things off to today's speaker, Michael Richman.
Hello, thank you. I love webinars. Nobody clapped, so I don't know if you guys are like actually happy to see me or whatever. But my wife actually likes me not being on camera because she says people tend to like me more and get out of it when they don't get more out of my presentations when they don't see my face. So that was a joke. Somebody hopefully laughed. I am here today to talk about getting a grip on your business in 2023. It is January 18th, so we just started the year, and I think that it's really important to get off on the right foot. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to go through our agenda. I always like to kind of tell you where we're going in the next 48 or so minutes. So the first thing is we're going to get real. We're going to talk about real issues that businesses have. We're going to keep it simple, okay? Everything I'm going to talk about today and everything in the EOS system is about simplifying and keeping things simple within your business. Not trying to complicate things, not trying to reinvent the wheels, but make it as simple as possible. Richard Branson said, allow me to quote him, he said, any idiot can make things complicated. A genius makes things simple. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to talk to you about how you get results using some of the tools that I'm going to teach you. So get real. I'm just going to tell you first a little bit about me. I am like you, I was a member of the IFAI and WCPA and PAMA. I owned an awning company, Academy Awning, here in Los Angeles. We also manufactured commercial cabanas. And while I owned my company, before I bought my company, I had an MBA, and I realized that my MBA wasn't really worth the paper that it was written on in our type of business. And I felt myself continually hitting the ceiling in our company and in our business. And so I looked for a place that I could find a system that could organize, harmonize, and keep our business going in the right direction. And I was introduced to EOS through a peer group that I'm part of, EO, and it transformed my business. And so when I sold my business about a year and a half ago, I thought to myself, what is it that I want to do with the rest of my life? I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, and my 4-year-old said, Daddy, does work mean that you're just on the couch all day? And I said, that's not the best example for a 4-year-old. And so I said, I love helping businesses. I want business owners to get more of what they want out of their business. And so I became certified in the EOS system. So let me just tell you quickly a little bit about the history of EOS. EOS was, everything I'm going to tell you today was established by somebody named Gino Wickman, who was a lifelong entrepreneur. Joined his family business at age 21, and he saw that it was in need of a turnaround. And so he started working with the leadership team, and he eventually did turn it around after about 4 years, ran it for a few more, and then sold it. And during that time, he was part of EO, the entrepreneur organization, and it's a peer group again of entrepreneurs that are $1 million plus. And he realized that a lot of the problems that business owners had were similar, no matter the industry, no matter the field that they were in. And so he decided to start cobbling together all these tools to try to help business owners get what they want out of their business. And so that's how he established the EOS system. He wrote a book called Traction, which my email will be here at the end. If somebody loves this and is super interested in it, send me an email. I will send you a copy of Traction. Again, it changed my business and changed my life. There's about 15,000 companies across the world that run on EOS today, everywhere from California and Hawaii to Australia and Poland, because it helps business owners get what they want. One of the things that Gino found, and I've seen it too, is business owners tend to have a few of the similar frustrations. What are they? Control. I have no control of my business. My business, and I'm sure there's people nodding right now as I'm saying this. I have no control of my business. My business is running itself. Every day I'm putting out fires. Another frustration, profit. Where did it go? How do I get it? And how do I get more of it? People. This is the one that, again, I'm sure all of you are shaking your heads right now on. People. How do we get the right people in our organization to take us where we want to go? Hitting the ceiling. Again, this is a frustration we constantly hear. We grow, boom, hit the ceiling. And we don't know how to get unstuck from that. And so, again, some of the tools and things I'm going to show you today help us get unstuck. And the last thing is nothing's working. We hear that all the time. I tried this system. I tried that. I tried daily huddles. I tried meetings every hour in my departments. And we hear that all the time. And so that's why, again, we've established these tools that I'm going to teach you today that you can use today, tomorrow, starting whenever, that are going to change your business. I talked about keeping it simple, and that's really the crux of the EOS model. So I'm going to walk you through the EOS model, what it is at a high level, and then I'm going to take you back around and I'm going to show you some of the tools again that you could use today. So I like to say that I start with your business, meaning, as I've seen it, every business owner and entrepreneur tends to struggle with 136 different things at once. As much as we can kind of distill those 136 issues down into 6 key components, you'll start to see magic happen and things fall into line. So I'm going to talk to you about what each of the 6 components are right now. First one is vision. Vision means getting everybody on the same page in your company with where you're going and how you're going to get there. Okay? People, that's the next one. People, this is one of the most important things. And I'm going to cut through all of those terms that you guys have heard, A players, top quartile, all stars. And I'm going to talk to you today about what makes a good person for your organization, the right person in the right seat. Data. This is taking the objective, which I know we've all been there in business before, the objective decision making, the subjective decision making out of everything, and egos, and I like her because she was nice to me at happy hour, and really focusing on the data. What is the hard, cold numbers and facts telling me about how this person is performing and what kind of team member they are? Issues. What'll happen once your vision and people and data are crystallized and clarified, all these issues are going to bubble up to the surface. And so I'm going to give you some tools and techniques today that make you really good at making those issues go away forever. If you're like me, I'm sure your business at some point was like the game whack-a-mole, and you would hit the little the gerbil and it would come up and you'd hit it, and then another gerbil would come up in another area, and then the gerbil would come back. I want to make that go away. I want to make you guys learn how to solve your issues forever and improve your company. The next component is process, okay? And this is putting everybody on the same page with how you do stuff. I like to say this is the blank way of doing things. It makes your business more fun. It makes it more manageable. It makes training easier. The last component is traction, okay? And traction is making sure that your vision is brought down to the ground. So everywhere you look around your organization, your vision is being executed on a daily basis. There's an old saying that says vision without traction is hallucination. And that's why traction is at the bottom of this model and vision is at the top. We must get everybody in your organization bought into your vision and then executing on it every single day. Okay? So that is the EOS model. Now, I'm going to say today, a lot of times in the next few minutes, that this is what 100% strong looks like in this component. The truth of the matter is, our goal is to get you to 80%. Most companies, like mine, were operating at 20%. Okay? And so they were still succeeding, like mine, in spite of themselves. So imagine if your company can go from 20% to 80%. It'll be life changing. So now I'm going to go back around the model. I'm going to open up my fire hose. I'm going to hit you with some of the key tools. And again, this is a broad brush over these tools. Hopefully you could take some nuggets out of this today, utilize them yourself. But this is stuff that I work with teams on a daily basis. So vision, again, this is getting everybody rowing in the same direction with where you're going and how you're going to get there. And the first tool in our vision component is the 8 questions. So this, again, I know it was mentioned at the beginning. I gave you this vision traction organizer today. It's in your handouts. Please use this. There's also, on a side note, a family vision traction organizer, which I love. We do, as a family, sit down and organize our vision on an annual basis, utilizing a version of this tool. So I'm going to walk you through the 8 questions, and then we're going to go through each one by one. So the first question is, what are your core values? Second is, what is your core focus? Third is, what is your 10-year target? Fourth is, what is your marketing strategy? Fifth is, what is your 3-year picture? Sixth is, what is your 1-year plan? Seventh is, what are your rocks? And I'll tell you a little bit about rocks in a few minutes. And lastly is, what are your issues? So I'm going to start with core values. And what are core values? This is what your company is at its core. Or I like to say, this is what the company reeks of, to be a little bit crass. This is what you smell like. Everybody in your company exhibits these values on a daily basis. And what we want to do is figure out what these values are and then utilize these values to hire, to fire, to reward, and to recognize. And so I like to suggest every organization should probably have 3 to 7 core values. And then what we do is we define the core values and what they mean for our organization. So again, I will give you an example of one for my company. One of ours was customer first every time. Okay, and I would define it with a story. So I had a SolidWorks designer who designed a cabana for us, and we shipped it to Hawaii, and the team there was putting up the cabana, and they were struggling with installing the cabana. It wasn't our team, it was the maintenance team. And unfortunately, my designer who designed this was actually getting married that day. And so I was really struggling. Well, what do we do? I texted him and I said, we're really in a bind. This customer's trying to get their cabanas up. They've got a big party that evening. We really need to do it. So what did he do? He jumped on the phone for 10 minutes, did it before his wedding, 3 hours before his wedding, and he did a FaceTime to help them figure out how to put it together. Okay, so I would give this example while I was interviewing, during reviews, during quarterly meetings with our team and our company, and during annual meetings. And that was one of our core values, and we lived that. And so sometimes you might sit on an interview and give that as a core example, and you might have an employee say to you, well, that's a great story. After 5 o'clock, I hang up my phone. So do not even think about calling me. Well, then we know that that person doesn't fit our core values, okay? But again, these have to be core to who your company is, not what you want it to be or what you hope it's going to be, but core to who your company is. And I spend a lot of time working with organizations on how do we figure that out. And there's different methodologies to do that. But that is one of the most important things. We do together, again, like I said, we discover, we define, and then we make sure everybody at the company is living it and breathing it on a daily basis. A lot of companies will hang up their core values in the lobby or in the lunchroom or over people's desks, just so they remember exactly what the core values are and what they're supposed to be executing. The next section on your VTO is your core focus. And what you want to do is really distill down what is your purpose, cause, and passion, and what is your niche. Okay, there's been a ton of different terms that have been used for core focus. Jim Collins calls it hedgehog. We've heard everything, but we like to call it core focus because it comes from your core. And I like to say this is the sweet spot of your organization. I'm a baseball fan, so when when you hit a ball on the sweet spot, it's going to go farther and harder than if you hit it off the end of the bat. Now, again, if you're like me, you can probably think about all the times that you stepped away from your niche and tried to do something and you got in trouble. And so I like to say that what we're doing here is we're getting rid of that shiny object syndrome, where we see a shiny object, we see this project that, oh, maybe we could do this, and we take our eye off the ball. And what ends up happening is the shiny object that we thought we could do, we don't end up executing well on, and our core focus and on who we are and what we're good at and our bread and butter also suffers. And so that's why we need to look on a daily basis, what is our niche, what is our purpose, cause, and passion, and make sure we're making decisions through that lens. The next section is your 10-year target. This is what Jim Collins likes to call your big, hairy, audacious goal. It doesn't have to be 10 years, it could be 5 years, it could be 30 years. This goes beyond money. This is something like that everybody knows that they could row towards. So at my company, our big, hairy, audacious goal, our 10-year target was to have 15,000 cabanas in the 48 United States, which we did, okay? Because that 10-year target was something that we can all look towards and we could count how many cabanas were going there, okay? We're going and being shipped out every day and we're being installed. So that allowed us, and I'll show you in a few minutes, to kind of work backwards from there and what are the things we need to do in order to get there. And then the next thing is your marketing strategy. So we break this into 4 different sections. So the first is your target market. This is the psychographic, demographic, geographic location of who your target market is. Plainly said, who are you going after? Where do they live? I'm not literally where do they live, but where do you market towards them? Or what events should you be going to? Where should you be focusing your marketing dollars, your SEO dollars, all this stuff? That is what goes in this target market after we figure out who they are and the list, okay? The next section is our 3 uniques. What makes us unique in the marketplace? Now, I like to say companies can have 1 or 2 of them, but your company is the one that has all 3 of them combined together, okay? So our 3 uniques, and I hope nobody on here is going to tell me that I was incorrect on our 3 uniques, but it was making poolside cabanas out of aluminum, utilizing and integrating in wood, and being able to have them engineered to whatever standard the municipality had. Those combined made us unique in our market. Lots of other people, probably people on this call, might be able to do it in aluminum, or they might be able to do it in wood, but they couldn't have it engineered because of size constraints or whatever. We were able to customize every single cabana. That made us unique in the marketplace, okay? The proven process. This is also really important, okay? This is the process of what it's like to do business with you. So from the beginning of our relationship with the customer, what is going to happen? What are the milestones? So again, in my company, when we get a new project, we'd send out a visual illustration of what this looks like. So day one, you sign or send us the PO or sign our contract. We expect to receive a deposit in 7 days. 7 days after receiving the deposit, we're going to send you a first draft of your drawings. After you approve your drawings, 5 to 6 weeks or whatever the lead time is, then you can expect to have it shipped with installation instructions. Once it ships, it's going to take this long. The entire process is spelled out. So what that enables us to do is it takes the customer out of the, oh my God, the guessing game. Well, wait a second, when am I going to get my drawings? Or when am I supposed to send my deposit? Or how long is this going to take? Also, it allows your customer service reps to point back to the proven process and say, hey, we know when your drawings are coming. Look, I sent it to you. I gave you a process, a map that you're going to fill out. Okay, so that is the importance of a proven process, because it creates almost an agreement between you and the customer and takes away the trepidation and a lot of the questions and the extra work. And the last portion of our marketing strategy is the guarantee. So what does that mean? That is the way that customers kind of separate themselves from the trepidation of working together. Meaning at my company, it was everything's fully warranted for 2 years. So or we would replace it. So my company, when we would send a cabana, everybody knew that no matter what, if something happened in 2 years, we would replace it if it broke. So that way, when somebody was going to their boss or somebody was making the purchase, they said, okay, no matter what, I'm getting 2 years out of this product, okay? So important to give them that, to give a guarantee so they take away that nervousness or trepidation. The next section that we go to and we discuss is our 3-year picture. And we like to write it down. As you see here, it says, what does it look like? I feel, and EOS feels, that when you write something down, you could see it in your mind's eye. Okay, so what we do is we list the future date, so 3 years from today, or whenever you do this, what the revenue of the company is going to be, what the profit's going to be, what measurables you're going to be looking at. So what does that mean? How many sales calls are we doing? How many awnings? How many covers are we shipping out? How many employees do we have? Whatever the measurables that you feel are important that will give you the absolute pulse on your business are what we look at here. And then we list bullet points. I like to say no more than 7 to 10 of what it looks like. So for instance, if you know that you want your revenue to be $3 million and to have revenue of $3 million, that means you need to have 5 salespeople. You write that down under the what it looks like bullet, and you say, I'm going to look around my company and I'm going to have 5 salespeople every single day going after clients. Or if you know that you want to expand nationally or internationally, you again say, I'm going to have a salesperson in Europe and in Asia, or I'm going to have another office in South America. Whatever it is, we write it down so we know what it looks like, and we keep revisiting these bullet points so we see how we're tracking. And this 3-year picture is informing the 10-year picture that I just talked about. Because if we can hit these things on the 3-year picture, we know we're getting closer to our 10-year target. And I'm sure it's not going to be a surprise to you that I'm going to tell you the 1-year plan rolls back to the 3-year plan, which rolls back to the 10-year plan. Okay, and so you're going to see some of the same things. Future date, what's the revenue? What's the profit? What measurables are we looking at? And for this, instead of saying, what does it look like? We're going to say, what are our goals for the year? What are the things that we need to do in order to get there and hit these measurables, profit, and revenue. So if we can hit these things in our 1-year plan, then hopefully we're getting closer to our 3-year plan, which is hopefully informing our 10-year plan. So as you could see, everything is rolling backwards to that big goal of the 10-year plan. The next section is rocks. So rocks are simply 90-day priorities for your company. And we do SMART rocks. So for those of you who are familiar with the acronym SMART, means specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. And everybody in your company should have a rock. And rocks are, again, the big things that you're going to do to move your company forward. So a rock is not, I got to make sure that this awning goes out the door tomorrow or this cover is shipped tomorrow. Your rock is something like, we need to make 400 cold calls by the end of this quarter, because you know that with 400 cold calls, you're going to get 10% of those are going to let you come in and do a presentation. You'll get 5% of those, or whatever the number is. But these are the big things that you need to do in your company. And we call them rocks because if you're thinking about a jar of water and you put sand in and you put water in, there's often not room for rocks. So we like to say the rocks go in first, and then the sand, which is all the things you're dealing with every day, and the water, which are the problems that are coming towards you, those go in second. Okay? And those are the things that you don't, that you're still dealing with every day, but your rocks are the things that are really moving your company to the next level. And the last section is issues list. And I'm going to talk to you about how we work through issues, but we make a list of issues of things we need to deal with in order to, again, move the company forward. So that's the vision component. And then we make sure that it's shared by all. So we take this VTO and we discuss it with our employees on a quarterly basis and make sure they're bought into it. That's what 100% strong looks like in the vision component. The next section is people. And I like to say that there's two key components to the people section. The first is right people. And so what does right people mean? Right people mean something different for every organization. And for this, we use a tool called the People Analyzer. And if you remember, we talked about core values a few minutes ago. And what we do is, as you could see here, we put each of the core values at the top. And for this company, humbly confident, grow or die, help first, do the right thing. And then we judge each employee with either a plus, meaning they exhibit it most of the time, because all is utopia, it's not going to happen, but most of the time. Plus minus means some of the time, and minus means they don't exhibit it at all. And we set a bar for what we want in our company. So as you can see, this company has a rating of, they want this many, they want 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses. And what we do is we utilize this to review our employees and make sure that each quarter they're hitting our core values. Okay, so as you could see here in this example, John Smith has a lot of work to do. And we use examples of maybe with John of when he didn't help first or when he didn't do the right thing. And that is how we review employees to make sure they're exhibiting the values and the core of who our company is and what we're doing. The second component of our people area is right seats. And we like to say structure first and people second. So what we do is we put together an accountability chart. Now, this is not an organizational chart. I like to say I never had in my entire life my title on my business card, okay? What's more important is who's accountable for what. So when we're making the accountability chart, we start with this premise that there's 3 main functions that every company has. Marketing and sales, meaning how do you go out? How do you get clients? How do you bring them in? Operations, how do we take those clients and take the product to market? How do we send it, ship it, that type of thing? And then finance, how do we collect money, make sure all of our bills are being paid on time, pay our vendors, that type of thing. And there's two other very key roles in any organization. One is what we call an integrator. And this is the person that is the glue that holds your company together. This is the person that likes to have those difficult conversations. This is the person that's making sure that your VTO is being executed on a daily basis. Okay, this is the person that really makes sure all the ships are running on time. And then the other seat is visionary. And I'm sure everybody here knows a visionary. This is the person that has 10 million ideas and they come to every single meeting and they want to, let's do this and let's do that. And maybe 9 out of 10 of those are actually good ideas. I'm sorry, 1 out of 10 of those are actually good ideas and 9 out of 10 are not good ideas. And so what we want to do is make sure that the visionary knows what his roles are and what are the things he should be doing and what the integrator should be doing. Because sometimes when the visionary sits in the integrator's seat, he doesn't have enough focus to be able to make sure all the ships are running on time. And you see major 90-day spikes in your company. And so that's something that obviously we want to avoid. Once we figure out the right seats, we put the function, and then we put 5 to 7 roles for what is this person responsible for. Now, again, that doesn't mean that the person can't ask for help from somebody else, but that means that they own that function. That means I, as a third party, could come in there and say, okay, finance, you are in charge of AP, and I could come in there and walk into the finance person, ask them at any minute what's going on with AP. Again, not to say they can't ask for help from somebody else, but they're the ones who own it. And what we do is we set this entire accountability chart with the functions first and the names second. Why do we do that? Because we want to make sure that we have the right people in the right seats. So first we need to make sure what are the seats and what kinds of things go in them before we insert people. We don't want to do this where we carve the job and the responsibilities to the person. We want to have the best roles and responsibilities for moving our company forward. And so here's an example again of marketing and sales function in a company. LMA means lead, manage, equals accountability, not leave me alone. I hope somebody laughed at that. Maybe they didn't. Marketing, hitting your sales numbers, selling, and account management. So these are the things that this person who's in charge of marketing and sales is responsible for. And I like to say that these people should hang their roles and responsibilities over their desk and almost look at it every day to make sure that they're working within their roles and what they're accountable for. Okay, and here's the other thing that we do. Once we figure out the people that should go into the roles that we set after we've set the roles, we look for 3 things. First is, do they get it? Do they understand what the job is? Second is, do they want the job? And I can't tell you how many times I've met with employees, and I'm sure you have too, that you find out they hate marketing, but you have them in a marketing seat. Or they hate doing social media, and you have social media as one of their roles and responsibilities. And lastly, do they have the capacity to do it? So they need to meet all of those things. And we use the people analyzer, as you could see here, to make sure that they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it. Now, if there's a no in any of those sections, it allows us to explore further with the employee, meaning they don't have the capacity to do it time-wise, they don't have the mental capacity to do it. What does that mean to them? And want it is really important. It's a conversation that you could have with your employee. Why do you not want to do social media marketing? Why do you not want to do X, Y, or Z? So that way we know that they are actually doing the things that their unique ability, what they're good at, what they want to do, and what they have the capacity to do. And what we do is we go about building this entire accountability chart for for your entire organization. We look 6 to 12 months in the future, and we put all the roles down, and then we fill it with people. Now, what'll happen is we're going to see two kinds of issues that'll occur. First one is right person, wrong seat. So what does that mean? You've got a person that everybody loves. This is the person that is been at your company for a long time and kind of knows where a lot of bodies are buried, but they're sitting in a seat that they're not any good at. I've had project managers that can't manage a project. And so when you look at the accountability chart, you're going to see, hey, they're sitting there and they don't either get it, want it, or have the capacity to do it, or they're just not, it's not for them. And so what we look at then is our entire accountability chart, and we say, is there a place where they might fit better and their unique ability could be executed on, okay? The second issue we see is the wrong person in the right seat. So what does that mean? Everybody knows and has had one of these, especially in our type of industry. This is the person who's really good at their job, but they're doing damage to you in ways you don't even know because they're not exhibiting your core values. They're talking behind people's backs. And that person, as difficult as it is, does not fit your culture like a glove. And we need to make a decision for the future if this is somebody that we want to continue to have in our organization. And so having all the right people in the right seats is what 100% strong looks like in the people component. Now, in the data component, by the way, this is going to go a little bit faster because I know people might have questions and that type of things. But I love this quote, so I added in there. If we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have are opinions, go with mine. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is how important data is. And so we use a tool called the scorecard. And what is the scorecard? It is a list of numbers and goals that we look at with a 13-week look back, knowing if we're going to hit those. So as you could see here, let's take Anne, for instance. She's in charge, or she is responsible for weekly revenue. Her goal is to have more than $84,000. So every week we write down in these boxes what her weekly revenue was. And if it's black, means she hit it. And if it's red, she didn't. This becomes very obvious to everybody on who's doing their job and who's not, and what we need to do in order to make the company more successful. I like to use an example of, I had an error rate for my sewers, and my sewers weren't supposed to have more than 10% rejection. And when we started actually utilizing the company's scorecard, because every person in the company has one measurable that they're responsible for, we realized that we had one sewer that was having 20% of all of her stuff rejected some weeks, and some weeks it was 30 and 40%. It was one person that was doing that. And so we were very clearly able to say, hey, you've had all these rejections. What are we going to do? And that person actually managed themselves out of the company because they realize now all of a sudden, they're tracking this stuff and they're looking at it every week. So every person in your company should have a measurable that they're responsible for. I will say, I've been asked, well, what about receptionists? How does a receptionist have a number that they're responsible for? And I've had it said, 2 rings good, 3 rings bad. We want the phone picked up after 2 rings. And so again, we're making people responsible for numbers. Here's an example of just some other measurables that people put on there: AP, AR, errors utilization rates, whatever it is. But these are things that we're tracking on a weekly basis and making sure that people are hitting their numbers. It takes the ego out of it. It allows you, when you're meeting with employees, to discuss their performance, to actually use cold, hard numbers. And we set the measurables and make sure that people are executing on them day in and day out. And that's what 100% strong looks like in the data component. Now, the next thing I talked to you guys about was issues, and we call this the issue solving track. So here's an example of an issues list. website is off track, Darren Yu is either right person in the right seat, all these types of things. And what we do is we utilize a system called IDS, identify, discuss, and solve. Now, what we found is people are really good at identifying what the issue is, okay? But what they aren't good at is getting out of the discuss section. So you'll see that you go into a meeting and somebody says, the website is off track. And then everybody discusses and discusses and discusses it, and nothing's ever solved. And so what we've done is we've said, look, what needs to happen is everybody's only allowed to say their point one time. Anything more than one is politicking after we've identified the issue. And then we go and we solve it and make it go away forever. And each meeting, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about meetings in a minute, we have a list of issues and we take as many as we can. So we start with number one and we go through number one. We identify, is Andy S. in the right seat? We have a few people discuss it, and then we solve it and make it go away from it forever. And sometimes you'll find these issues, you're able to get through 10 issues in a meeting, and sometimes you're only able to get through one. And again, I'm going to talk about where this comes in our meeting track in a few minutes. The other example I like to give, because I'm a little bit of a hypochondriac, is identify. It's like when you go into the doctor and you tell them I have the sniffles, and then we discuss with the doctor, well, what kind of sniffles are you? Do you also have a sore throat? And then solve. Yeah, I checked. You have the flu. You're going to take some Tamiflu and you'll be gone better in a few days. That's what we want to do for your company. And being able to solve those problems and make them go away forever is what 100% strong looks like in the issues component. Process. So again, I don't know about you, but when I came into my company, we had those 100-page SOP manuals that I used to hold my door open, okay? Nobody ever looked at them. And so when we moved to EOS, we realized, look, there's just a handful of core processes: people, marketing, sales, operations, customer service, accounting. And we took a high-level approach to these core processes. So we documented them, not in a 100-page SOP manual, but in checklists and different ways to simplify. We would just ID the need and define the seat and what is hiring for a person. Or for me, the one example I like to give is our truck maintenance process was a checklist. This wasn't a big computerized process. We came up with a checklist that everybody had to fill out every day before they turned the ignition on in one of our trucks. And so we knew if the tires were low on air, and we knew if there was enough windshield wiper fluid. And when we were able to do that, a lot of problems went away because we had a process. And it became the Academy process of how we do truck maintenance and the Academy sales process. And so not only were we able to point back to employees and say, utilize this process when you're doing X, Y, or Z, but we were also able to help train on utilizing this, because we'd hand them the process, a new employee, and they'd be able to follow along, and we'd be able to answer questions for them by just utilizing the process manuals that we had. And so that changed our company in ways I couldn't even describe. That's why I love this quote. We did a lot of work with Four Seasons Hotels, so I'm really into them. Systemize the predictable so you can humanize the exceptional. We want to systemize everything that we can in order to make sure that everybody is following it the same way every single time. That will make your company more profitable. It'll make your company more fun, and it'll allow people to understand and know what the right way to do things is. And this is just a quick follow by all checklist. What does that mean? We're training everybody to make sure they're following your processes. We're measuring them. We're leading, managing, and holding them accountable, and we're constantly updating them. And that, again, is what 100% strong looks like in the process component. The last component is traction, and I talked to you guys a little bit about the rocks a few minutes ago, and these are just your 90-day priorities, your big goals, your SMART goals. But let me go through what we talk about Meeting Pulse, and I'm going to go quick because I know I only have a few minutes. But we want our entire company to be living in a 90-day world. I talked about the 90-day scorecard. I talked about the 90-day rocks. I talked about quarterly meetings where we update everybody with our VTO. The Meeting Pulse is, I like to say, is like an EKG. You want it to go up and down and be very, very, very standard every single time. Okay, so what I like to say is we're going to have a meeting on the same day, same time. We're going to start on time, we're going to end on time, and we're going to have the same agenda. And so what we established in EOS is something called the level 10 meeting. Where does that name come from? Well, most people leave meetings and they go, that meeting sucked. That was like a 2. And then they go to happy hour and they talk about it, right? I hope people are laughing because I've done it. I'm sure you've done it. Okay. And so what we've done is we've set an agenda, and I'm going to walk through that agenda, and this should be utilized every time you guys have a meeting. Okay. So the first thing we do is we share good news. This is personal good news. Hey, I had a great vacation with my wife last week, or I saw a great movie over the weekend, or I was able, my softball team won, that type of thing. Humanize it. This is the next 3 things are what we say is reporting only. So we take that scorecard that I talked about a few minutes ago, and we go through each of the numbers and we say, okay, was it black? Was it red? We don't have a discussion about it at this point. If we want to have a discussion about it, we do what I talked about a little bit earlier, and we move it to the issues list. The same with the rock review. Okay, we look at our rocks and we say, are they on track or off track? This is not a place for us to discuss whether or not these are on, what's going on with them. Simply reporting on them. If we want to talk about whether or not they're on track or off track, then we're going to do that later in the issues section. If we have a reason, something that we need help with, or an issue that we're bumping into that we want to discuss. But this is reporting only. The next is the customer and employee headlines. Simply headlines. Tammy was really upset last week. She had some personal stuff going on, but she seems to be doing better this week. Customer X was really happy with their project, that type of thing. Again, reporting only. Then we have a to-do list. Again, these should be 7 to 14-day items that are falling off the list every week, so they become to-dones. We don't want to have stuff just living on there. So 7 to 14 days. And then we spend the bulk of our meeting doing the issues the way I just talked about, where we have a list of them, we go through them, and we knock them down and make them go away forever. That should be 60 minutes of your 90-minute meeting. And then we conclude with a rating and see how we did. Okay, this makes for a great meeting. That agenda, utilizing it the same time, same day, every single week, is people know where they can go to discuss issues, they know where they can go to get issues solved, and they know what they're going to be responsible for in the meetings. Again, start on time, end on time, following the same agenda. That's what 100% strong looks like in the traction component. So that is the EOS model, okay? Like I said, the foundational tools for EOS, the VTO, the accountability chart, rocks, Meeting Pulse, these, and scorecard. These are the most important tools. We teach other tools, but these are the tools that are foundational to getting your company to the next level. And as you can see, we've taken a lot of time to simplify these tools and make them utilizable, if that's a word. I don't think it's a word. Make them easy to utilize for everybody and all different organizations. You can go on EOS Worldwide. We have books, Traction Library, there's downloadable tools. You can email me. There's EOS implementers, which is what I do to come and help you put this into your company. So again, final thoughts. What we like to say is choose and use a system to run your company on. It doesn't have to be EOS. There's other systems out there, but choose one system and use it to run your company. Get what you want from your business. Okay, too many business owners are out there today not getting what they want from their businesses. And so we want people to get what they want from their businesses. And I like to share this quote from one of the visionaries in Minnesota. And I'm not just saying it because I know we're headquartered there, but as you could see here, it's utilizing the system EOS or any system is life changing, and it's real simple results. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions. I know I threw a lot at people. As I said, everything here is based on a book called Traction. I have many copies of it. If somebody is interested in reading that book, please email me. My email is right here, and I'd be more than happy to send it to you. If you want to have any questions that you don't want to ask in the main group as well, and you want to talk privately, please feel free to email me or text me or call me. But I can open it up. I think I have 9 minutes for questions if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. If, as a friendly reminder, you can send any of your questions in through the questions box of your control panel. So we can get started here with one question that we have. How do I roll these tools out to the entire organization, not just the leadership team?
Okay, that's a fair question. So there is a process. Well, first, what we need to do is we need to make sure that the leadership team agrees on everything in there. We need to have one voice as a leadership team. So I like to say we can debate. When I work with clients, we can debate all we want in the room, but when we close the door and walk out of that room, one voice. Okay, it's like parenting. Everybody here either has a parent or is a parent knows that when the mom says one thing and the dad says another, never works out. So first, we're all on the same page. And then we roll the tools out in different ways. There's a book that I shared with my employees called What the Heck is EOS? Helps them understand all the tools. And it's incumbent upon the leadership team to trickle this down through the management and teach the management so they can teach all the line employees what are we doing and why we're doing
it. Thank you so much. So one other question here, does this work for businesses that are hands-on, excuse me, or blue collar?
Yes, I think I mentioned I used it in my business. My business, again, we manufactured commercial awnings and cabanas. I don't think there's there are more hands-on businesses, but it was extremely hands-on. And again, some of those tools in there are so helpful for a blue collar type business. I gave the example of sowers and error rates. There's so many examples I can give you. Again, like I said, the checklist for the truck maintenance, for installers and people out in the field, you can have things, scorecard measurables that include, and I had them that include error rates on jobs, customer satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10, getting a job done under the allotted budget time. So there's so many different ways to utilize these tools, even for blue collar workers. And I will say that having these quarterly meetings, especially in a factory and blue collar environment, makes people feel some ownership. They take a look and they go, okay, this is where the company is going. Okay, and this is how I am part of the cog in this whole organization. You know, a lot of times stuff just happens at a leadership level, especially in blue collar companies, and nobody tells the line workers what's happening or why they're doing this. And I like to say my line workers might know a lot more going on in the company than the person who's sitting in the leadership seat. So they need to be bought in and understand where you're going so they can be giving you back the information and telling you how to improve your company and how we're going to get to that 10-year goal. Again, some of my people that I've worked with, and I did this in my company, I didn't share all the numbers. I know sometimes, look, if you don't want to share the profitability, I understand that, or you don't want to share the revenue, I understand that. I do think there is some benefit to doing that, and if people want to email me, we can discuss that. But I think that knowing what our values are and what are the things we're being measured on and how many, what our 10-year target is, are really, really key things for any employee, blue collar, white collar, doesn't matter.
All right, we have another question that has come in. Getting started is always a challenge. How much time should I allocate to the initial or to initiate such a process?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. So there's a kind of a prescriptive system. It depends if you're going to do it yourself or you're going to have somebody come in. Like I think I mentioned, there are implementers that will come in and help you implement this into your company. It will take some time at the beginning. I can't say prescriptively there's this much amount of time or that much amount of time. It's different. I do suggest my clients, in terms of the rocks, and people that I've worked with, spend 20% of their time dealing with a week on rocks. I know that sounds like a lot, but these are the big things that need to get done for your organization. But I would say, normally when we meet about 5 times a year, it takes about 90 to 120 days to get the thing fully rolled out from start to finish to your entire organization.
Awesome. Well, it looks like that is all of the questions that we have for today. So do you have any final thoughts before we close things out?
No, like I said, this choose a system, use a system. It will change your business. It'll make you more organized and stick to it. And it'll change the whole face of how you operate on a daily basis. So again, anybody wants to discuss my experiences, or what I've seen work or what I haven't worked, or would like a copy of the book Traction, my phone number is there, my email address is there. I'm more than happy to discuss it with anybody at any time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michael. And if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to write them into here, or I know Michael had put up his email. You can feel free to reach out to Michael directly. Otherwise, as we close things out, we're continuing to add webinars to our calendar, so make sure you check out all of our upcoming webinars and events by visiting techstyles.org/events. And otherwise, when you close out here, you're going to see a very brief survey. We would appreciate it if you would fill that out really quick. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.